Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to this episode of the Geeky Clinicians podcast. As always, I am your chief geek, Dr. Deborah Dantzler, and we have an amazing guest today, Samantha Newton, one of my friends, and I'm so excited to have her on. But before that, I'll let the other Geeky Clinicians introduce themselves, and then I'll read Samantha's bio, and we'll jump in.
Hello, everyone. I am Mona Taki, and I am the Geeky Clinical Yogi.
Ooh. So Samantha Newton, LCSW, is a licensed clinical social worker living in Charlotte, North Carolina. She owns the Therapy Suite, PLCC, a private pay virtual therapy practice. She loves working with high achieving clients who are experiencing anxiety and self-esteem issues. Samantha also has extensive experience working with the military since 2015. Samantha has a passion for working with new clinicians, which is very appropriate for Mona, who's one of our postmasters residents here, new clinicians, and supports them through her YouTube channel, The Keys to Therapy, and her Facebook group, Support for New Clinicians, Connect and Thrive. She believes in paying it forward and helping all clinicians succeed in building their dream careers while achieving the work-life balance they've always wanted. Samantha also offers business consulting through her second business venture, The Keys to Business, for therapists looking to grow or streamline their practices and offerings. She also completed a certificate in women's entrepreneurship through Cornell. Oh, you went to the Cornell program. Awesome. And enjoys strategizing with other business owners. In addition, Samantha is a co-founder of the Carolina Wellness Entrepreneur Collective, which offers resources, networking, and training to wellness providers across the U.S. In her free time, Samantha is an avid TV watcher, loves a good binge watch, likes spending time with her two rescue dogs and her husband, going to brunch with her friends, and trying new bakeries. Welcome, Samantha.
Yay, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we are so excited to have you. Samantha and I met a couple of years ago at a retreat, and you're just a delight and so just such a wonderful gift to our field. And so I'm so glad that we were able to get this scheduled and learn about your clinical journey, your business journey, and just, how you got fired up to become a geeky clinician.
Yeah.
And so I know that we're going to talk a little bit about the business origin story too, but I kind of want to start with what was your clinical origin story and kind of all taking it all the way up to now with really owning like kind of three clinical businesses, a private practice, a consulting company. You have your podcast, your YouTube channel, and you're collaborative with our other friends, Jenna
and Laura.
Oh my God, forgive me.
Yes, and Laura.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot. But I think that that's also part of we'll get into that with the business side of things too. When you're doing things that feel like they're in alignment, you're not exhausted by them. So you're excited by them. It's the opposite. They kind of fill you. But that is definitely not how I started. This has been a journey. So as far as the clinical origin story, or clinical one, I grew up in Miami, and not the nice part, not the Will Smith song version of Miami. Trick daddies from my neighborhood.
Okay.
So definitely like the type of area that was a little bit rougher. Like they didn't deliver pizza in the dark once it hit nighttime, just kind of stuff that was just not the greatest. And that also meant that I was around a lot of people who had substance abuse and mental health issues. So typically, if you find areas of poverty, you're going to find more homelessness, you're going to see more substance abuse. So there was a lot of things I was exposed to very young. We were also on like food stamps. I had a single mom, so going to like the department, then you had to get like paper food stamps and go in person with DCF there, the Department of Children and Families. So I was just around a lot of different people and different economic statuses, and it was such a contrast to what everyone thought Miami was. So I think for me, growing up exposed to so many things, it made me really want to learn more about people and like their origin stories. Like, how did they get here? How did this, get into, I don't know, just kind of how did this area grow into this and what caused people to get from maybe, there was one guy in particular that would always just walk and talk to himself. And my
Mm,
mom went to high school with him. And so
mm,
she would say he was so different in high school. And she'd tell us about how he was then versus when he had a psychotic break in his early 20s. And
mm.
so we would just see him walking, walking, walking. And so it was like, well, gosh, how did that happen? How'd that person turn into this person? So I was just always fascinated by people. And like you read in my bio, I love TV shows. So if I've always loved like following the character journeys and seeing how people grow and what things change them. So I've just always had a fascination with people. And then once, I don't know when it was, maybe like middle school or early high school, I really was like, you know what, this is something I want to pursue. I always thought I wanted to be a vet because I loved animals, but the second an animal got sick, I'd be like, I'm out. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have a mental breakdown. What? Your cat's limping? I'm done. Like I need the help right now. So that was off the table real quick. But once I got to high school, I was like, wait, I'm the friend everybody keeps coming to
Mhm.
with their stories and them wanting advice and just kind of getting that perspective. I'm the person people keep turning to. And I really love being able to not only support them, but help them, even though it was obviously like in the back of a physics classroom talking about the gossip from the day. But I really enjoyed that. So I decided to pursue a degree in psychology. And so I went to the University of Miami. I got an academic scholarship because there was no other way I was going to go to college and I'm not athletic. So I got good grades, went to college, and my program was very PhD focused.
Mm, mhm.
So, University of Miami gets a lot of money from education. They have a gigantic medical school, they do a ton of research. So, everything was geared towards PhD. And I did not want to go down that path. I was like maybe a PsyD, but for me, I wasn't sure that that's what I wanted to do. And I also didn't know any other options. So, I ended up taking a year off to work because I was like, I need to go work in the field, go talk to people with different degrees before I commit to seeing what I'm going to do next.
Yeah.
So I ended up working at a facility in Overtown, which is the worst neighborhood in Miami. It was a facility for people who had all committed crimes, mostly murder, and they were all found not guilty by reason of insanity. So instead of putting them in the prisons, they would apply to come to this program. So newly 22, I'm popping up with my ponytail, like, hi, everyone, and doing group therapy with people in this setting. And so, same thing of hearing, wow, this is where you were, and this is where you are, and just getting to meet the families that were still in contact with them, getting to meet them on family day, getting to hear about what was going on, and also working with people who had their social work degrees, their counseling degrees, who had substance abuse degrees, kind of feeling out what everybody was doing and what they had done in their career. So I interviewed everybody. Oh, this is your degree? Why'd you pick that? What other jobs have you worked at? And really try to get all this information that wasn't easily available and still really isn't
Mhm.
to help people figure out what to do. So I decided to go the social work path and I wanted to get out of Miami. So I went to UNC Charlotte and pursued my master's in social work. And that was in 2010. So I've just been
Okay.
going since then.
Awesome. I love how the awareness of the curiosity of human behavior is really the foundation of this journey. Just
Hmm.
that wonder and that awe of, wow, humans, what happens to them? How do they grow? How do they progress? How do they get from this to that and all of the different aspects of the things that influence them? And then I love how you described when you went to work at the forensic place with your ponytail. I could just even envision you bouncing in there going,
Hi, everybody.
all of the people that you served, I'm sure you really were able to positively impact their life. And so, and that was a pivotal point because you did your further curiosity and did your research and then wound up on the social work path. And now you're full LCSW with your practice and yeah. wonderful. And so tell us from that clinical journey, that origin story, the clinical origin story, to the business origin story, right?
Mhm.
Because not all of us who start in on this clinical path wind up in independent practice or owning a private practice.
Yeah, I think for me, and maybe it was a little bit initially fantasy. I think of like, I want to have my own practice one day because again, some of the shows I'm watching at that point, they've got these beautiful offices and they're dressed bougie and they are in there seeing these clients and they just have these beautiful lives. And so I was like, I want my own office one day. I want my own practice. So for me, that was always the goal, but I had no idea how to get there. And my social work program, it was so much. I went from one extreme to the other, where it was like PhD, and this is what we're going to do in research and money and grants, to then social work, them saying, you need to work in community mental health. Don't expect to get paid. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't expect
Mm,
to really get much because you're out here to help people. So you need to just focus on helping people. And I was like, but I've seen what happens in poverty. Like, how come I can't help people and get paid?
yes,
Right.
exactly.
Like, that doesn't make sense. My doctor
Yeah.
gets paid. My
Mm,
dentist, I just had a root canal. He got paid. I don't
yeah.
understand why I can't get paid too. So it was just very strange to me how it was like you have to be a martyr if you're in this mental health field.
Absolutely. So it kind of sets us up in that
Hmm.
martyrdom, in that service role, in that role where we're just already blatantly told not to expect much. So it really kind of creates this money mindset where there's an internal struggle for the clinician
Hmm.
to be able uh to have that mindset, to make that shift, to be like, it's okay for me to be of service and to live well and to make money and to be able to feed my family, and I don't have to self-sacrifice financially and just to be of service. And I remember when I went to a class here in Atlanta, which is probably a very similar class to what you're going to be doing with your consulting practice,
Hmm.
in that it was for people who were interested in starting a private practice, clinicians who are interested in starting a private practice, and some of this basic how to, right? Like the one, two, threes of starting a private practice. And in that room of about 20 people, the majority of people literally had that martyr mindset and were like, "Oh, we can't do this. This is you're being selfish, or you're being
Mm.
greedy, or this isn't what behavioral health is about. It's not about making money." And this idea that profit was a bad word. And out of that room of 20, I think only two of us actually started private practices because we were
Wow.
able to have that awareness and challenge that money mindset block. So,
Wow.
Ooh, yeah, it's so sad. And this is people in a whole different state than where I was trained. This is just the messages across the board to us.
mm-hmm,
And it doesn't make sense because I've had friends or I've had clients who have told me they're in medical fields or they're in other places. Money was never anything that even came up for them. No one
yeah,
told them that they deserved less or that
yeah,
they should be working in community health centers first
mm-hmm,
before doing a hospital job, or like nobody told them these types of things. So I don't understand why in our field, the newest people, the newest clinicians who are the most vulnerable end up in some of the most dangerous, unhealthy, underpaid situations. And if you went to school straight through, you might be 24, 25 years old in some of these settings. You don't even know money for yourself or benefits or insurance. And then they have you in these situations with like these very high conflict, unsafe cases and situation with no training. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of issues within our field. And I think that's a major one. They train us from the start to not necessarily learn how to advocate for ourselves, which is crazy because definitely in social work, all we're doing is learning about advocating for our clients.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yes,
Hmm.
advocate for the clients, but not for yourself.
No,
Yeah,
no.
Right.
yeah,
So that always really frustrated me. And from where I came from, it was like I was always being on food stamps. I remember my mom would say, we'd be at the grocery store and I'd be like, oh, can we get another box of cereal? And she'd be like, we don't have enough for that. So if you want that other box of cereal, you need to go to college. And she would use it anytime she could. Everyone in my family, for the most part, they were all teen moms. They all had GEDs. Like there wasn't anyone in my family who'd gone to college. So she instilled that in me, like, you work hard, get your money, get your education, like do these things you need to for you because I don't want you struggling like I did. So then to go into education and have them tell me I should be struggling, I was like, what? No, I'm here to not do that. And you guys are trying to tell us to do that. So there was no talk of private practice, which is crazy understanding now that maybe two or three of my professors were in private practice and
Mm,
teaching was their side hustle. But they didn't speak to us at all about their practices. So I don't know if they were discouraged from doing that or if they didn't want to cross line. I have no idea, but that was just not talked about at all. And so I knew like I had to do it in stages. So I worked in community mental health and got my LCSW a year or 2 years and a few months after graduating. So like I knocked my hours out because I was like, get me to the next stage. And then after that, I was like, I need more money. I was making like 38,000 a year. So living by myself, no, there was like no way that was going to work. So I started working with the military. I moved states, started working on a military base, and suddenly my salary doubled almost. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. But in that setting, no one's telling you either about private practice because they need you sitting there to
mhm.
see their people. So I was just like, okay, I'm newly licensed. Let me try to get more experience, figure out what I want. And then after doing that a few years and being frustrated with how things were run, which is a theme for me, being in places where I'm like, they are not like, my brain's always been very organizational.
Uh-huh.
I love like things being organized and in their place and lined up and streamlined and all of that. And so every place I worked, I'm like, my gosh, if they just changed this or did this, but I had no say. So I would just constantly have in the back of my mind, I'm going to have a practice one day. And then I had milestones in my head. Let me get this much experience first. Let me then start figuring out who I want to work with. So after working 4 years on the military base, I started out a group practice so I could feel it out. Let me see how it is to do private practice and to have these hours. And it was the first time I ever talked to clients about money because I never had to. Community mental health, they didn't have money. It was
Yeah.
Medicaid and there was no copays or anything.
Hmm.
And so, and then with the military, everybody was active duty and had TRICARE. They just popped up in my office and came and went. So being in a group private practice gave me the chance to talk about no show fees and kind of get a feel for the business side
Yeah.
without having to actually run the business. But like I said, there was always problems with how things were run. And so
Absolutely.
I was like, whew, I like this, but there's a lot about it I don't like.
Yes, yes.
So,
But I do think that's an important stage, right? To
mhm,
maybe, as especially in making that money mindset shift, when we go
mhm,
from, because like you're right, like community mental health, nonprofit, military, all of those institutional places where clinicians are working, we don't ever have to look a client in the eye and tell them, would you like to use the card on file? We don't have to talk
mhm,
about what their fee is. We don't have to talk about if they have a balance in arrears or if there's a no-show or missed appointment fee and have to deal with all of those parts of the clinical relationship because
right?
money adds an element to the clinical relationship. And if we're not solid in our money mindset, then that's going to be a real problem, right? And
Mhm,
so we have here at 3D Psychotherapy, we have something called the Postmasters Residency Program. And so that is where we take you from graduation to full licensure.
mm,
And we provide all of that support, the directed experience, the clinical supervision, additional opportunities for projects and, attending conferences and providing like presentations and doing workshops
mm,
and things like that. And so as part of their role as a postmaster's resident, they have to have those conversations with clients. They're getting a lot of the exposure to the business side as well. We do offer a bonus that if they stay a year after full licensure, that then basically they're kind of set up for their own practice afterwards. So it's this kind of handoff, and
Mm.
they can take whatever clients they have at that time. They can, kind of
uh,
move on, and so it's really addressing what you're talking about, like what you
yeah,
were looking for there, which is you went to a group practice to get this level of exposure.
absolutely. Yeah. And that's so rare that you do that. I hear from so many people horror stories about the places that they've worked. They don't get paid. Their supervisors crossing boundaries with them, telling them, well, you can be my therapist for our supervision session so I could see how you work. Like, what? That's such a ethical boundary. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So there's so many issues that I've seen because not everybody goes into business for the right reasons either. So you had to have worked on your ability to be able to figure out the money piece, to not be competitive with your employees, to not have some of these like crazy control factors in place as a boss, because I see that so much. I feel like probably three-fourths of the people who go into group private practice, it's because they're looking to make money. So they're just like, I don't care what's going on with the employees. I just need that cut of their checks.
Yeah.
And then you've got the smaller, that one quarter that's like, hey, I want to foster relationships and build a healthy work environment, make sure the clients are taken care of, but that my staff know they need to be taken care of too.
Yeah.
And you just don't hear that a lot at all.
Mm.
So thank you for your work because you're putting less traumatized people out here for the clients.
I'm
Thank.
so grateful. I'm
Oh,
so grateful for 3D psychotherapy in this program.
oh.
It has helped me so much, and I'm looking forward to the future.
Yeah. Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. You won't come out again with all these like traumatic stories the rest of us have, but yeah, I mean, again, working at a group practice, there was certain things that I would have done differently that I didn't really love some of the things that were happening. I wanted more say over clients. Like we just got assigned kind of whoever, whenever, regardless of our preferences or trainings or any of that. And so that felt very much agency like to me versus like a private practice. There was just a couple things that just really weren't aligned, but I did get a lot of great experience, met a lot of great clients. I was able to really start having those conversations around money, figuring out more of like my scheduling boundaries and things like that, and then gained that confidence to know that I could do it on my own. But I think what was different for me was the group practice was an insurance-based practice, and I didn't want to take insurance. I did not want to deal with that side of things for me personally. So, um, I did a private pay practice was so I spent a year or so like planning all of that and getting as much training and research and everything else that I could to build the confidence to do it on my own. Because I also moved back to Charlotte. So I was living in Virginia Beach at that point for a couple years and I was like I want to go back to Charlotte. Personally, I want to be near more of a city, but also professionally, that's where I went to school, and I'd like to kind of reestablish some roots here. So I moved states and started my practice in the same month.
Wow.
Why not? Yeah, so that's how I started my journey, but it was definitely I mean, I took a lot of time planning, so I think it was for me it worked really well and it was fairly seamless, but I was met with like a lot of issues because of the business model I chose for private pay. A lot of clinicians actually had an issue with it.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Again, it's that money mindset, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, if I had known anything different, because I'm a bit more seasoned, maybe
Mm-hmm.
a little bit with the salt and pepper here. But what I was literally told by my mentor in terms of starting a private practice of how you do that is you get on insurance panels, and then insurance panels send you clients, and then now you have a private practice. Check, done. That was what we were taught.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was how I was oriented. So I didn't even know that private pay practices were an option until
Mm-hmm.
I was well into it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
because again, gatekeeping, there's a lot of gatekeeping in this field and people are hiding information and they're not really sharing much. And I understand some things need to be behind a paywall, right? If you've spent a lot of time with your trainings, your research, you're not going to tell everybody every single aspect of it because you've invested in that. And, some people should invest too, but some of the programs are either way out of the scope of thousands of dollars, way too much for people to be able to pay, especially right out of school or a few years in. And other stuff I just feel like is people's own biases coming through their
Yes.
training to other people. So their money blocks coming
Mhm.
through. So for me, working at the group practice and learning more about how insurance worked, I mean, we were W-2 employees, so we had to get paid every 2 weeks, but hearing things about, well, this one, especially TRICARE is notorious for that. We haven't, I've already heard now TRICARE hasn't paid anybody since December. So, and it's April. So there's like certain issues that I was like, I need a consistent income, especially the way I grew up. I was like, no, part of me going into this field and making these decisions is I want to have consistent income. So, yeah, so that's the path I chose. For me, the business side was something I'd always wanted, but I needed it to work in the way I needed it to work, regardless of what other people thought about it.
So, Mona, do you have a question? Because I'm about to ask a couple of questions about challenges and wins around the business stuff.
Yeah, I kind of want to bring it back to you brought up boundaries. And so
Mhm.
I'm curious to know with that, setting those boundaries with yourself of, okay, this is how I'm going to run my business. But then also, I'm curious to know with the how many clients you take. Did you what type of boundary is that for you? I'm just curious to know like how do you juggle all of these different things and what boundaries have you set in place for yourself business wise? You got the YouTube channel, you're doing content, all of these different things.
Yeah, so I don't like working. Like, I love the work I do, but I am not somebody who's like, I'm working 60-hour weeks and like pride myself on that. To me, that's like, that's just never been something I've wanted to do. I need to do, it's like quality over quantity to me. So what I wanted to do, even though I've had the idea for the YouTube channel since I was in grad school, like having had, even though it was only a year of like work experience prior to going into grad school, I had all this life experience. So going into school and having people talk about these concepts that I've lived, but not talk about them in the right way or teach about them in the right way. And everything we were taught was so based off of theory and nothing practical. In my mind, I was like, this isn't teaching us any, you're teaching us theories from 100 years ago. What do I do right now if a client is telling me they are going to kill themselves? Teach me that. Teach me what to do if they're sexually harassing me. And those were things I figured out on the job. So I just always had this idea in my head to do the YouTube channel because there's just so many gaps in education. I'm also an older sister. So I feel like there's already this bit of me that's like, I'm going to teach and mentor and kind of help you out. So that was always in the back of my mind, but I knew again I needed things to be stable. So working in each setting, especially once I got to the group practice, I messed up with my time boundaries because I gave the schedule to her, to the owner, that I thought she would want me to have versus the one that
Uh,
I personally wanted to have. So I had 7 clients a day with a half-hour lunch break, and I worked Monday through Thursday. Deborah. Yeah, because in my mind, I thought, well, I've been seeing 6 clients a day, 5 days a week, and doing all this stuff. So what's one more if I get Fridays off? And 7 a day with a half-hour lunch break. I was eating, doing my notes like at the same time. I'd like run to the bathroom, dictating my notes in like the Simple Practice app. Like it was so rushed. And we weren't really allowed, once you set that, to go back on it because that now they had their financial expectations for what that was going to be. So when I started my own, I was like, what schedule works for me? I already made the mistake of doing what works for other people. So I had to set boundaries for myself and be realistic. So I was like, okay. 6 is like my max for the day. And I need an hour lunch break. So I'm going to do 3, an hour time block, and then 3. I want to be done at 6 every day. At the group practice, I was done at 7:30. That was just not, that was too late for me. So I was like, I'm going to start at 11, have lunch break at 2, see people till 6, and then still be done at a decent time. So I really had to tune in with myself and decide how do I do my best work? Not what clients are going to be able to come see me when. I couldn't focus on that because people will figure it out or they don't. And then they get referred to one of my friends or somebody else I know. So, I mean, it really needed to be about me, but I learned that the hard way. That was after being burned out and exhausted and frustrated. So, and resentful. So there was that. And then once I started to work the Monday through Thursday, seeing those clients, I started to realize like, I don't actually want to work Thursdays either. I've got all these side things I want to do, and Fridays need to be my day. That's the day that I can go to the doctor, go to the dentist, do vet stuff, do chores. So my whole weekend isn't just all of the things I didn't catch up on. It's all chores, right? For a lot of us, we're
yeah.
grocery shopping, we're cleaning, we're doing laundry. So it was like, I want to have like days I can spread that out. So I started to cut off my Thursdays and had Thursdays be my like side hustle day or spillover for clients. So if Monday's Labor Day, well, now I got Thursday, I can see them and I don't lose that money. I can just scoot them over. And I actually made more money that year doing 3 days a week with a spillover day than I did doing the 4 days. the year before.
Mm.
So that was just positive reinforcement for me. And then with the other stuff, like the collective, those are like weekend events. And it was me being like, okay, well, I work by myself at home because it's a virtual practice. I've been at home now 5 years since COVID started, which people need to be studying COVID because that's like a black hole of time that I have no idea how it's been 5 years. But I was like, I need to socialize because my dogs are sick of me. So like I need to get out here. So that turned into me networking and talking with different people who were looking to do something outside the therapy space too. And so then that is like a once a quarter event we'll do. And that's the boundaries around that once a quarter. Go ahead, Deborah.
I was just going to say, tell us a little bit about um, each of your businesses, and starting with the Carolina Collective. Is
Yeah.
it? Tell us what that. Start with that one,
Yeah.
and because
The name's too
that's just
long.
such a. I see the pictures. I've not yet had the
Yeah.
privilege to attend, and I know that you guys will let us Georgians come and visit to the Carolina Wellness.
Absolutely. We want to go down to Atlanta. So
Okay.
so you, Mike, that like there's some people we want to see.
Yeah,
So
maybe Geeky Clinicians and Carolina Wellness could collab on an event. You guys come to Atlanta.
yeah, I would not be mad at that. I would love that. Oh, yeah. So what that came about was that conference that we all originally met at.
Mhm.
There I met Jenna and Fabrizio, she's in LCSW too in Charleston. And then Laura Rippion, I had met her virtually, and then we met in person there. And so the three of us were talking about like, we've all been doing the clinical work for a while. We really enjoy it, but we're looking for different streams of income because you don't always want to be chasing clients. So, and with private pay, you have to market a lot more for clients because you're not taking insurance. So they're not going to find you in the insurance directories, or they're going to go on Psych Today and filter you out immediately once they click the box of the insurance they have. So we all got together. We were just talking, kind of clicked, and we're like, oh, let's do a co-working weekend to work on all our side hustle stuff. And then a ton of people were like, well, if you do another one, let me know. If you do another one, let me know. And so we were like, well, maybe there's an interest in other people wanting to come together to work on these side hustles. And none of us are competitive. So we were like, why not build something out of this? Like, we'll throw events, at least create the space for people. And then whoever connects with whoever in there, amazing. So we decided to expand it more to like wellness entrepreneurs versus mental health because there's a lot of people who do similar healing work to us, Reiki masters and yoga teachers and things that it's all kind of within the same space. So we held our first event here actually. We did speed networking, like speed dating.
Uh-huh.
And so we had like small groups, and then every 10, 15 minutes, people would rotate. So you get to meet everyone and not just sit at the one table. And the only people you could talk to are the ones in front of you or next to you. We wanted everyone to get a chance to talk. And Jenna does sound baths. And so now I help her with the wave drum. So, and Laura does the chimes. So we were like, why don't we heal the healers? Let them network, get all this, their business stuff out, and then lay down and get a sound bath and then relax and go on with all these different hopeful referral sources and things like that. So we've really loved doing those events. We're doing a marketing one in Wilmington at the end of June where it's going to be a little talk in the beginning about like networking or marketing strategies, how to develop your elevator pitch and how to show up on social media in a way that feels authentic to you and streamline some of that stuff so it doesn't feel like it's so heavy. And then we're going to have everyone do the speed networking using their elevator pitch.
Okay.
And then we're going to do the sound bath. And we also have a photographer. So everyone's going to walk away with 2 headshots before they leave for the day. So they not only have the photos, they now have the social media strategies and some tips, and then hopefully some more connections that they've made there too. So just ways to get this community to be more collaborative. So like I said, there's a lot of gatekeeping and there's a lot of stuff that I just don't love about it. So we're trying to undo some of that.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. I'm so happy
Thank
for you
you.
guys.
Hey, we're excited.
Mona, do
Yeah.
you have a question or something to add there?
Um, I guess through everything, I'm interested to know what is self-care for you? Like, what does that look like? I know we talked about boundaries, but then through all of the things, what does self-care look like for you? Because I know you brought up the sound healing and things like that and providing these spaces. But for yourself, is there anything that like helps you through juggling all of the great things that you're doing?
Yeah. So I'm really strict on boundaries. That's something that with the collective too, I'm usually the one speaking on that because I want things to when you're done with work to be done. So like small things that I've done, like when I started my practice, I know a lot of people use phone lines that are attached to their phones, like apps and stuff, Google Voice or whatever other things. I just got a new cell phone and used my old one as my work phone. So literally I have a totally separate phone for work. I don't have notifications on my phone for my work emails. Since COVID and we had to have home offices and then started my own practice, I have my stuff in a whole separate room of the house and I close the door when I'm done. So I don't schedule clients after hours. And everybody I see, the population I see, to be fair, like they're all very high functioning. So there's not a lot of need for crisis, but everybody knows clearly like the hours I work and what I do. I also try really hard to keep work on work days. So if there's a no-show, squeeze in whatever I need to do. For my notes, make that like check boxes with just like a couple sections of things I have to fill in. So that way I
Mhm.
can like quickly do them. And I do my notes every day, like for everybody that day. So before I eat lunch, I do my notes for those first three people I saw. The second I'm done with work, I sit outside, get out of the house since I've been in the house all day, sit in the back porch, watch the dogs go out and like get fresh air and do my notes for the last few people because there's an app for simple practice. So I just do that. Um,
Mhm.
I let my family know years ago and friends too that on work days, I'm probably not going to be as available, even like in the evenings to talk. So I'm not going to ignore anybody, but I'm also not, I need that energy back for me. So that's where I'm kind of regimented for the work days. When I'm done with work, like I said, do my notes and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna eat dinner. I'm gonna take a shower. I'm gonna find shows to watch. I'm going to just like put my phone down because I've been staring at that, some sort of screen all day. Try to read, try to like get a break from some of the tech stuff. And then
Mhm.
the weekends, socialize a little bit in person since I'm here all the time. Try to plan
Mhm.
things so I have things to look forward to. So when work is maybe a little bit more tiring, I feel like I've got something that's making it more worth it, if that makes sense. Like, okay, if I
Yeah.
just get to this day, oh my gosh, on Friday, I'm doing this thing. So, little things like that. I think quiet is also really nice because I feel like our society's always got to have something going on. You got to have the TV in the background. You got to have a podcast playing while you're doing something. Like it's just loud a lot. So I think sometimes the quiet is just really helpful. Like be alone with your own thoughts for a bit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Samantha,
Awesome. Love that.
Tell us about the keys to business. This is the
yeah.
most recent venture, right? And
Hmm.
one of the questions we usually ask everybody are like, what's been the biggest challenge that you faced on your journey, and what's been the biggest win on your journey? So
Yeah.
tell us a little about the keys to business, and then kind of move right into what have been these challenges and what
Yeah.
have been the big wins.
Yeah, so it's interesting because the challenges are what spawned the keys to business, to be honest. So that fits,
Okay.
yeah, fits right in. So, like I said, a lot of the trainings and stuff or, podcasts, YouTube videos, whatever about private practice that I was trying to take in when I was building my own, I thought that a lot of them were really helpful and I pieced together different things. But like I said, a lot of things it felt like somebody was always trying to sell a program. Here's $3,000 to do this and this and this. And I already knew so much. So even though I did do a program and in the very beginning, while I was planning it, it was helpful, I still felt like I was searching for different pieces of different aspects of things that weren't covered. And then it was like, I'm not going to pay for a whole nother program. I already have the whole foundation. There's just little bits of things. So it was a little frustrating to me that everything felt like you have to commit to this many months of coaching or this many whatever this lawn program for this couple $1,000s. So as I started working in my practice, a lot of people were asking me questions. How are you doing private pay? How are you marketing? What kind of things are working for you? Just stuff like that. And so after the first couple times of the pick your brain and meet for coffee, I was like, I can't keep doing this for free. Like I've invested so much time and money into all of
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
So, and it's like you were saying earlier about the money mindset. For me, it was like I can give back, and I do on my YouTube channel. I have, that's free. All the new clinicians, having people on there and having myself talk about different aspects of this job, that's me giving back for free. Having a private pay practice, I have 3 reduced rate spots.
Mhm.
So I have clients that pay $60 a session. And so different, like it's kind of the balance for me. So I was having so many people ask me, it was like, I can't keep doing this for free. So I mean, even like little bits here and there, but with all of like the DMs and people reaching out, it was just like, oh my gosh, it's too much. But there's obviously a need. And there's a need for like a one-off type of thing. So I'm still building the website for it. But part of the keys to business was going, well, a lot of us don't have business education, not formal. And some of the challenges I faced was, like I said, kind of people not understanding either how I wanted to do my business. Like I got people I was even like friends with, um, they had said at some point, because they were working, taking insurance, and they were like, well, I want to be accessible to more people, so I'm going to take insurance. And I'm like, okay, but my TRICARE people get back everything but $10 for every session. I'm cheaper than them using their insurance and paying a $30 copay. They just pay me up front. Like everybody gets a super bill. There was certain things that just felt, again, that money mindset, very judgmental. And so that was a challenge for me, knowing that after I left the group practice, more other, like a bunch of other people left, and other friends I had were all kind of going into that journey of starting their own practices, and every single person took insurance but me.
Mhm.
Nobody wanted to take that leap. Even though I was doing it and proving it could work, nobody could do it. Nobody wanted to do it. So that was a challenge for me, feeling kind of unsupported, and not even just that, but judged by
Yeah.
how I chose to run my business. And it's like, but I had the insurance-based practice. I had 23 clients follow me from paying a copay to paying a full fee when I
Wow.
moved on my own. And even the owner told me nobody would. So I mean, it's the work you do. Just like we're going to end up paying extra for somebody that we know is good. And I have personally too. So it's not even just like a model that I expect people to follow and I don't. When I wasn't getting answers from my doctor about like hormone issues or something, I saw a naturopath doctor and paid out of pocket.
Mhm.
So I'm practicing what I preach too, but I feel like it's just, yeah. So that was a big challenge for me, was like feeling like there wasn't a lot of support and there was a ton of judgment. And it's like, well, I can do both. I can support a life for myself while also supporting clients and making things accessible.
Yeah.
So, and given how long ago I graduated and trainings I have, I could be charging way more, but I don't. I charge a fee that is good enough for me right now, and my clients can pay. So, that I felt was difficult. So with the keys to business, I was like, well, I would rather have consulting be as many appointments as you need, essentially. I don't want people to have to pay for a whole program or a whole contract. If you want a 1 hour, 90-minute intensive to just sit here and work on aspects of your business, then let's do it. If I
Mhm.
never see you again, good luck. I will follow you on social media and cheer you on in like every post that you put. Like, I wanted people to have access to something that felt like it could be short-term help, because I wasn't seeing a market for that out there. And not everyone needs a whole course or has
Yeah.
to spend thousands on a program. So, yeah. And a lot of things I learned myself. I took an SEO program so I could learn how to do SEO and do it for myself.
Mhm.
So just very much, again, I like to be in control and know what's going on and have that ability. So, and that also makes it easier for me as part of the self-care piece, is to go, well, I have all my stuff lined up. Everything's planned, everything's lined. So when I'm done, I'm done.
Mhm.
So that was
Yeah.
definitely a huge challenge for me, was the judgment from peers. And if you've been in any Facebook therapy group, you've seen it
Absolutely.
a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I love your model. I love that you're right, because a lot of the programs, they want this like year-long commitment or 6 month
Hmm.
commitment, or there's this large amount up front, and that they ask for and things like that. But the idea of just having a resource, being able to get what you need, pay for it, and know that you can have a place to get that without either a long-term commitment or large outfront expense is really helpful. And I can give you a testimony, right? I'll give Samantha a testimonial, because had I not consulted with you with the keys to business, right? Even though it
Yeah.
wasn't called that yet, but
Right.
I had not consulted with you. Um, we wouldn't be here with Geeky Clinician Podcast.
Oh,
Because Samantha is who I consulted with on how to do our YouTube channel and to be able to offer this and have this community of geeky clinicians and have these conversations about how we get geeked up about this work. And so I am grateful to you, and I will give you any testimonial when you're ready.
thank you, because I was gonna hit you up for that anyway as I'm building the website. So thank you for that. But yeah, and see, it was a one-off appointment. I was like, here's all my templates. Here's everything that I use. If you need me again, let me know. It doesn't need to be a big ongoing thing. So there was somebody else I worked with for coaching, and she was like, I was a professor for years. I've had my private practice for a while, but I need it to work better now that I'm leaning more towards this. This isn't a part-time, this is gonna be a full-time thing. So can you help me? So we'd meet one-on-one. So we met the first time. She told me everything that was going on. I came up with a bit of an outline and I was like, whatever you want to work on, let me know. And so we just went session to session and she'd be like, okay, I want to work on this next time. And then we'd set up a time. And then when she was done, she was done. So I just feel like people should have that freedom. And I wasn't seeing anything like that. And just like kind of everything else, I feel like in my life, if I'm not seeing it, I'm going to go do it. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And it also reminds me of when we were at the retreat together at the
yeah.
that everybody was coming to Samantha for help, right? They're
Yes.
like, Samantha, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? And then I think I even said to you, I said, I think you should be charging for this. Like, you're
Yes.
just helping all the other participants.
Yes, with Flow Desk. I remember that day. Everyone was freaking out. And yep, you said something. And then Dawn was like, yeah, you need to be charging at some point. So I was like, you know what? And that's part of where it all birthed from me going, everybody's asking for these things. But I want to do it a different way because I know what I needed. And that's the same thing with the YouTube channel. I needed this resource when I was younger. So I'm going to create it. And I can't speak on everything. So I had guests like you come on to speak on other parts that I don't have that life experience or that training or live in that area. So I'm not priding myself on being an expert on everything, but I'm going to create a space where people who are the experts on these things can come in and share. So plus if it's visibility for you as well, then that's a double win, triple if you count me winning views, you winning exposure and sharing your story, and potential therapists or clients winning. So I think that that's a big thing for me. So those are part of the wins. To go back to your question is I've been getting so much feedback recently on my YouTube channel from new therapists that are like, oh my God, this is so helpful. Or even seasoned ones saying like, gosh, I was never taught this. And I'm teaching people now on how to do this. And this is helping me figure out what to tell them.
Awesome. And
Mm.
do you do like trainings, longer form trainings for like CEs and things like that?
That's on my list for stuff to do in the future.
Okay, excellent. Because we
Yeah.
have Geeky Clinicians Academy
Mm.
where we offer trainings for continuing education, and we're always looking for speakers who want to come on and do a topic. So yeah, we will definitely. Sandra, who's also a PMRP, she's at a conference right now,
Oh, wow.
but which is why she's not here today. But I'll have her reach out to you
Yeah.
to connect to see about send you that speaker application, and maybe we'll get you on the calendar.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah. I spoke at a new clinician expo maybe 2 years ago or so on setting boundaries, because like I said, that's my favorite topic. And it was really fun. So, and that's the thing is like when you've built a solid business, you can expand to these other spaces. My client base is solid. I don't have a ton of like new referrals coming in, but my clients stay with me for years because I do the same thing with them. You're doing well. Do you want to go down to every other week? You're doing well. Do you want to go down to monthly? And I provide them with you don't have to start or stop. The
Yeah.
door open. So, and I've seen some clinicians that require, and that's fine if that's the way they want to work and run their business. They require you to start weekly or they require certain things. And again, that's fine. And we might also work with different populations, but I like to be
Mhm.
flexible. So I think being able to have the practice, and I just on April 1st was 3 years since I
Oh,
launched it.
yeah.
Yay, thank you. So now I'm like, cool, I've been able to run it and sustain it. And to be fully transparent, I've made more money than I've ever made working less hours than I've ever worked.
Yeah.
And I'm not charging an astronomical fee. I mean, my existing clients pay 140. a session. So I've raised the rates for the newer people coming in, but even that's like 155. There's people that are charging 200, 250, depending on the area and the space, and great for them. That's awesome. Goals,
Yeah.
right? But I'm working on building a sustainable life for me first,
Right.
and that is creating a business that works for me.
Yep.
Then find the clients that it works for them too, not the other way around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mona, do you have any other questions,
Mm.
comments?
I'm looking forward to this CEU workshop in the future.
Excellent. So, Samantha, one question that we always ask
Mhm.
our guests here at Geeky Clinicians Podcast is, what are your best hopes? We ask just like, what are your best hopes for our field, but also what are your best hopes as it relates to specifically the business of therapy, right?
Mhm.
What are your best hopes for the future of the business of therapy?
Yeah, I really hope that therapy can be seen and talked about more as a business, first and foremost, because a lot of us do not have any sort of formal business education. We are actually discouraged, like we were talking about, from going down that path. And like you were saying in the training you went to, people saying that's greedy or that's this or that. It's like, at what point are we not, I don't know, were we taught that we're not supposed to care about our own well-being and our needs? I mean, we're already in a field where there's very limited benefits. We don't have 401ks, we don't have pensions, we don't have some of these things that most other fields have. So we have to be smarter with how we make money. And we happen to make money helping people. So do everybody else in the healthcare business. But for some reason, we're singled out. So I think breaking through those boundaries, not listening to the people in your life that are perpetuating them too, even if they're a professor, they're a mentor, they're your boss, whatever, finding people who are more aligned. I really hope that that's the way that therapy goes in general, as far as being seen as a business, being talked about as a business, and people being okay with forming businesses that fit them versus bending to fit therapy and the needs of clients. There will be someone for everybody. I am not going to be the person that sees a client at 7 a.m., but I know plenty of people that do, and they want to be done by 2. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna be up at 7. So they'll see those people. I'll see the people who are doing the lunchtime car sessions with me. And that's how we work. So I think also I hope that people can also get past the needing to be everything for every client and every person in your life in general, to be honest. Because if you're seeing this in work, you're probably seeing it in your personal life as well.
Mhm.
So getting through some of that, and understanding that like there's someone for everybody. We say that with dating, right? Like there's someone for everybody. There's someone for everybody with clients too. So making sure you stick to your boundaries, your needs first and foremost, because this field has a lot of burnout because people don't do that. So
I, I love that. Yes. So caring for ourselves as clinicians, breaking
yeah.
through some limiting beliefs around the business aspect, and really taking the risk and stepping out there and actually recognizing that therapy is a business and it's okay to be of service and to live well. It's
Yeah,
absolutely more than okay. It's essential. And I think you're
absolutely.
doing a great job modeling that. And thank you so much for being our guest today. I am so
Thank
happy. This is
you.
such a great conversation. And I look forward to future collaborations and connections.
Thank you guys for having me. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. You,
And to all of our viewers, as always, share this episode. If you liked it, like it, subscribe, follow us on the other socials. Have a great week. And well, goodbye from the Geeky Clinicians. Bye.
bye. Thank you.